The year was 2347, and humanity had finally done what no one thought possible. After 50 years of proving themselves, they had earned a seat at the Galactic Confederacy table. It was not easy. Humans had to fight for every inch of respect. They had to show that they were more than just a young species from a small blue planet at the edge of the galaxy. Sergeant Daniel Cole stood at attention near the main entrance of the Unity Summit Chamber. He was part of the first human security detail ever assigned to a galactic diplomatic event. His dress uniform was perfect, his boots were polished, his face showed nothing. He was a U.S. Marine. And Marines did not show emotion during duty. The Nexus Ring was the largest space station in the known galaxy. It floated in neutral space, belonging to no species and no empire. Over 40 different alien races had sent their representatives to this annual summit. Some came in peace. Some came to watch. And some came to remind everyone who held the real power. Cole watched as delegates from dozens of worlds walked past him. Some were tall and thin with blue skin. Others were short and covered in thick fur. A few floated instead of walked. The galaxy was filled with life, and most of it looked nothing like humans. Ambassador Lisa Morgan stood near the center of the Great Hall. She was the head of the human delegation, and one of the smartest diplomats Earth had ever produced. She smiled and shook hands with alien representatives. She spoke their languages. She understood their customs. She was doing everything right. But Cole could feel something wrong in the air. He had been a soldier for 15 years. He had fought in conflicts on 3 different colony worlds. He knew when trouble was coming, and trouble was walking straight toward the human delegation. Commander Vorath was impossible to miss. He stood over 7 feet tall. His body was covered in dark green scales that looked like armor. His eyes were yellow with black slits down the middle. He belonged to the Krethian Empire, the most feared military power in the entire galaxy. The Krethians had conquered over 200 worlds. They had never lost a war. And they did not think much of humans. Vorath walked through the crowd like he owned the station. Other delegates moved out of his way without being asked. Even species that had their own powerful empires showed respect to the Krethian commander. Fear was a universal language. Cole watched as Vorath approached the human section of the hall. The alien was not trying to hide his intentions. His path was direct. His eyes were fixed on Ambassador Morgan, but Vorath did not go to the ambassador. He stopped in front of Cole. The 2 warriors stood face to face. Cole was tall for a human, just over 6 feet. But Vorath towered above him by more than a foot. The alien looked down at the Marine with open disgust. "So this is what humans call a warrior," Vorath said. His voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. He spoke loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "You are small. You are soft. You have no claws. No armor. No natural weapons of any kind." Cole said nothing. His orders were clear. Do not create an incident. Do not respond to provocation. Let the diplomats handle everything. Vorath leaned closer. His breath smelled like metal and blood. "Your species does not belong here," the alien said. "You are children playing at a game meant for true civilizations. The Confederacy made a mistake, letting you sit at our table." Ambassador Morgan stepped forward. "Commander Vorath, if you have concerns about human membership, I would be happy to discuss them through proper diplomatic channels." Vorath did not even look at her. His eyes stayed on Cole. "I am not talking to you, female," Vorath said. "I am talking to this thing that calls itself a soldier." Cole felt his jaw tighten. He kept his hands at his sides. He kept his breathing steady. He was a professional. He would not give this alien what he wanted. Vorath smiled. It was an ugly expression on his reptilian face. "Nothing to say? No defense of your species? Your people are even weaker than I thought. On my world, we have a name for creatures like you. We call them prey." The alien lifted one massive hand and placed it flat against Cole's chest. Then he pushed. Hard. Cole stumbled backward 3 steps before catching his balance. The push had real force behind it. If Cole had been a civilian, he would have fallen to the ground. Whispers spread through the crowd. Delegates from other species watched with interest. Some looked uncomfortable. Others looked amused. A few were already recording the event on their devices. Ambassador Morgan's face went pale. "Commander Vorath, this is completely inappropriate. I must insist that you step away from my security personnel." Vorath ignored her again. He stepped closer to Cole, closing the distance the push had created. "I have studied your species," Vorath said. "I have read your history. Your people spent thousands of years killing each other over tiny patches of land. You murdered millions of your own kind for ideas and beliefs. And now you come to the stars and pretend to be civilized. It is disgusting." Cole remained silent. His training was the only thing keeping him in place. Every instinct he had was screaming at him to respond. But orders were orders. Vorath raised his hand again. This time it was not a push. The slap echoed through the grand hall like a gunshot. Cole's head snapped to the side from the force of the blow. The alien's palm was hard as stone and rough as sandpaper. Cole tasted blood in his mouth. He felt his cheek burning where the scales had scraped his skin. The entire chamber fell silent. 1,000 different species held their breath. Every eye in the room turned toward the human marine. Cole slowly turned his head back to face Vorath. His eyes were calm. His expression had not changed. But something behind those eyes was different now. Something old and dangerous had woken up. Vorath laughed. It was a cold, cruel sound. "Just as I thought. Weak. Pathetic. Your species is nothing but food for the strong." The Krathian turned to address the watching crowd. He spread his arms wide and raised his voice. "Let all present witness this moment. I have struck a human warrior." And he did not respond. "This proves what we have always known. Humans are not fit to stand among us. They are prey. They are slaves. They are beneath our notice." Cole stood perfectly still. Blood dripped from the corner of his mouth. His hands remained at his sides. But inside his chest, something was building. Something that the Krathians and every other species in the galaxy had never seen. The true face of humanity was about to reveal itself. The silence in the grand hall lasted only a few seconds. Then, everything happened at once. Ambassador Lisa Morgan rushed forward with 2 of her aides. Her face was red with anger. She pointed at Vorath and demanded an apology. She called for station security. She threatened to file a formal complaint with the Confederacy Council. Vorath did not care. He stood with his arms crossed over his massive chest. His yellow eyes showed nothing but amusement. He had done exactly what he came to do. Station security arrived within minutes. They were a mixed group of different species, all wearing the gray uniforms of the Confederacy peacekeepers. Their leader was a tall being with pale skin and 4 arms. He looked nervous as he approached the scene. "Commander Vorath," the security chief said. "This is a diplomatic summit. Violence is strictly forbidden." Vorath laughed again. "I have committed no violence. I simply touched the human. If he is so weak that a touch causes him to bleed, that is not my concern." "You struck him," Ambassador Morgan said. "We all saw it. I disciplined an inferior being," Vorath replied. "As is my right under galactic law." The security chief shifted uncomfortably. He clearly did not want to be in the middle of this situation. "Perhaps we should move this discussion to a private chamber." "No," Vorath said. His voice boomed across the hall. "I want everyone to hear this. I invoke the right of dominance." The whispers returned immediately. Delegates from different species began talking rapidly among themselves. Some looked shocked. Others looked worried. A few were already leaving the hall, not wanting to be present for what came next. Captain Kevin Harris pushed through the crowd. He was Cole's commanding officer and the senior military representative in the human delegation. He was a broad man in his 50s, with gray hair and hard eyes. He had seen combat on more worlds than most people knew existed. "What is the right of dominance?" Harris asked the security chief. The pale alien with 4 arms sighed heavily. "It is an ancient law, one of the oldest in the Confederacy. When a warrior from one species strikes a warrior from another species and receives no response, they may invoke the right of dominance. And what does that mean? It means the struck warrior has two choices. They can accept the challenge and fight in single combat, or they can refuse. What happens if they refuse? Ambassador Morgan asked. The security chief looked at the ground. Their entire species is declared a slave race. They lose all rights within Confederacy space. Their worlds become property of the challenging species. Harris felt his blood run cold. That cannot be legal. You cannot enslave an entire species because of one fight. The law is ancient, the security chief said. It comes from a time when the galaxy was ruled by warrior cultures. Many species have tried to remove it. None have succeeded. The Crethians have blocked every attempt. Vorath smiled his ugly smile. Now you understand. Your species has a choice. Your warrior can face me in combat, or all of humanity becomes property of the Crethian Empire. Ambassador Morgan looked like she was going to be sick. This is insane. This is murder. You are twice his size. Size matters in combat. Vorath agreed. That is why humans should never have been allowed into the Confederacy. You are too small. Too weak. Too soft. But the law is the law. Your warrior was struck. He did not respond. Now he must fight, or your species must kneel. Harris turned to Cole. The Marine had not moved since the slap. He still stood at attention, blood drying on his chin. His eyes were focused on something far away. Sergeant Cole, Harris said quietly. Did you hear all of that? Yes, sir, Cole replied. His voice was calm and steady. You do not have to do this. There might be other options. We can appeal to the council. We can demand more time. Cole finally moved. He reached up and wiped the blood from his mouth with the back of his hand. Then he looked directly at Captain Harris. With respect, sir, I understand what is at stake, and I understand what I need to do. Harris studied the younger man's face. He had known Cole for 5 years. He had seen his classified file. He knew things about this Marine that most people would never believe. Are you sure? Harris asked. Cole nodded slowly. I have been waiting my whole career for something like this. The Crethians think they know what humans are. They studied our civilians, our scientists, our diplomats. They think that is all we have to offer. He paused and looked at Vorath. The alien was watching them with an expression of bored superiority. They have no idea what a Marine can do, Cole continued. They have never seen what we become when someone threatens our people. I say we show them. Harris was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. Very well, Sergeant. Do what you need to do. Cole stepped forward and raised his voice so everyone in the hall could hear. Commander Vorath, I accept your challenge. I will face you in single combat under the right of dominance. The hall exploded with noise. Delegates shouted in a dozen different languages. Recording devices flashed and beeped. The security chief began making calls to his superiors. Ambassador Morgan closed her eyes and whispered something that might have been a prayer. Vorath walked toward Cole until they stood face to face once again. The alien looked down at the human with something close to pity. You are brave, Vorath admitted. I will give you that. Stupid, but brave. Do you know the record of Crethian warriors in the arena of honor? I do not, Cole said. We have fought in 437 right of dominance challenges. We have won every single one. No species has ever defeated us. Tomorrow, you will be just another name on a very long list. Cole looked up at the towering alien. His face was still calm. His voice was still steady. Tomorrow, Commander, you are going to learn something important. You are going to learn that you picked a fight with the wrong species. Vorath laughed so hard that his scales rattled. I like you, human. It is almost a shame that I have to kill you. Almost. The combat was scheduled for noon the following day. It would take place in the Arena of Honor, a massive coliseum built into the outer ring of the Nexus station. The arena had hosted thousands of challenges over the millennia. It was designed to hold over 1 million spectators. Tomorrow, it would be full. Cole was escorted back to the human delegation quarters. His fellow Marines gathered around him. Some offered words of support. Others offered tactical advice. A few just stood in silence, not knowing what to say to a man who might be dead in less than 20 hours. Cole ignored them all. He went to his private room and locked the door behind him. He sat on his bed and closed his eyes. He had a lot of thinking to do, and not much time to do it in. Tomorrow, the galaxy would learn the truth about humanity, one way or another. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within hours, every major news network in the Confederacy was talking about the upcoming fight. They called it the execution. They called it the slaughter. Some simply called it the end of humanity. The betting markets opened and closed almost immediately. No one wanted to bet on the human. The odds against Cole were 10,000 to 1. Some gambling houses refused to take bets at all. It seemed like stealing money from the few fools who believed a human could win. Commentators from 100 different worlds analyzed the matchup. They measured Cole's height and weight. They studied his movements from security footage. They compared his physical abilities to those of Commander Vorath. Every single expert reached the same conclusion. The human had no chance. Krethian warriors were genetic perfection. Their scales were harder than steel. Their muscles were 3 times denser than human tissue. They had 2 hearts that pumped blood filled with natural combat drugs. Their reaction times were faster than any species in the known galaxy. They could see in the dark. They could smell fear. They were built for one purpose, and one purpose only: war. Cole was tall for a human but still much smaller than Vorath. He had no natural armor. No claws. No fangs. No special abilities of any kind. He was soft and slow and fragile compared to his opponent. By every measure that mattered, he should already be dead. But the experts did not know everything. In his quarters, Cole sat in front of a computer screen. He was watching old footage from classified military archives. Videos that no civilian had ever seen. Records that most governments pretended did not exist. The videos showed humans in combat, not the sanitized versions that appeared in news reports. Not the clean and careful operations shown in military documentaries. These were the raw files, the unedited truth of what happened when human beings went to war. Cole watched a group of Marines hold a position against 1,000 enemy fighters for 3 days. They had no food, no water, almost no ammunition. They held anyway. When the rescue team finally arrived, only 4 Marines were still alive. The ground around them was covered with enemy dead. He watched a single soldier carry 3 wounded teammates across 5 miles of hostile territory. The soldier had been shot twice in the chest. She refused to stop. She refused to die. She delivered her people to safety and then collapsed. She survived. He watched the first contact with the Harith species. The Harith were hunters. Predators. They had wiped out an entire research station of 40 scientists in less than an hour. The military sent in a team of 12 Marines to investigate. Only 1 Marine made it back alive. He walked out of the jungle carrying 17 Harith skulls. That Marine was Daniel Cole. Cole turned off the computer and leaned back in his chair. The galaxy thought they understood humans. They had studied Earth's history. They had read about the wars, and the violence, and the suffering. They thought this proved that humans were primitive, savage, uncivilized. They were wrong. What the galaxy saw as weakness was actually strength. Humanity had spent its entire existence fighting, not just against other humans, but against everything. Against nature. Against disease. Against the cold and the dark and the endless threats of a hostile universe. Every generation of humans was forged in struggle. Every survivor was harder than the one before. The aliens had evolved on gentle worlds with stable climates. They had developed technology before they developed conflict. They had never truly had to fight for survival. Humans had done nothing but fight for survival. For 10,000 years, and the Krethians were about to learn what that meant. Captain Harris knocked on Cole's door an hour before midnight. Cole opened it and stepped aside to let his commanding officer enter. Harris looked tired. The stress of the situation was visible on his face. He had been in meetings with the ambassador and other delegates for hours, trying to find another way out of this mess. There was no other way. "How are you feeling?" Harris asked. Cole shrugged. "Ready." Harris sat down on the edge of the bed. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out a small data chip. "I brought you something," he said. "It is the complete Creathian combat database. Every recorded fight, every technique, every weakness we have been able to identify." Cole took the chip and plugged it into his computer. Files began loading onto the screen. Hours and hours of footage. Detailed analysis of Creathian physiology. Notes from the few species that had survived encounters with their warriors. "The ambassador does not think you can win," Harris said. "Most of the delegation agrees with her. They have started making plans for what happens after you lose." Cole did not look up from the screen. "And what do you think, sir?" Harris was quiet again. He watched the younger man scroll through the combat footage. Cole's eyes were sharp and focused. He was not just watching. He was learning, absorbing, preparing. "I think the Creathians made a mistake," Harris finally said. "I think they looked at humanity and saw what they expected to see. They saw a young species. A small species. A species without natural weapons." He stood up and walked toward the door. "They did not see what I see," he continued. "They did not see 15 years of combat experience. They did not see the man who walked out of that jungle alone. They did not see the most dangerous warrior Earth has ever produced." Cole finally looked up. "Is that what you really think, sir? Or are you just trying to make me feel better?" Harris smiled. It was a thin, hard smile. "Sergeant Cole, I have seen your classified file. All of it. And I am going to tell you something I have never told anyone else. I have seen your classified file. I have seen your classified file." He paused at the door and looked back. "You are the only human I have ever met who genuinely scares me. And tomorrow, you are going to show the galaxy why." After Harris left, Cole studied the Creathian files until dawn. He watched every fight. He analyzed every movement. He memorized every pattern. The Creathians were strong, they were fast, they were arrogant, and arrogance was always a weakness. By the time the sun rose over the Nexus ring, Cole knew exactly what he was going to do. He had found the gaps in Creathian technique. He had identified the moments where their confidence made them careless. He had developed a plan. It was time to teach the galaxy a lesson about humanity, a lesson they would never forget. The Arena of Honor was ancient. It had been built over 10,000 years ago, when the first species reached the stars and began fighting each other. The massive structure could hold more than 1 million spectators. Today, every seat was filled. Representatives from every species in the Confederacy had come to watch. Holographic projectors beamed the event to every corner of the galaxy. Trillions of beings were watching. They all expected to see the same thing. They expected to see a human die. Commander Vorath entered the arena first. He walked through the main gate with his arms raised high. The crowd roared. Flags and banners from the Creathian Empire waved in every section. The alien warrior was dressed in ceremonial armor. It was polished until it shined like a mirror. In his right hand, he carried a traditional Creathian blade. The weapon was as long as a human leg and curved like a crescent moon. Vorath stood in the center of the arena and waited. He looked relaxed, confident. He had done this 400 times before. This would be no different. Then the human entered. Cole walked through the opposite gate wearing simple gray combat fatigues. No armor, no special protection of any kind. The crowd fell silent for a moment. Then they began to laugh. Cole ignored them. He walked to the center of the arena and stood facing his opponent. In his right hand, he held a single weapon. It was a standard marine combat knife. The blade was less than 8 inches long. It looked like a toy compared to the Creathian sword. The arena announcer spoke in the common galactic language. His voice boomed from speakers around the Colosseum. "This combat is under the rules of the right of dominance. The fight continues until one warrior is dead or submits. There are no other rules. Let the combat begin." A signal horn blasted across the arena. Vorath charged immediately. The Creathian moved with incredible speed. His massive legs covered the distance between them in less than 2 seconds. His blade cut through the air, in a horizontal arc, aimed directly at Cole's throat. Cole did not retreat. He did not dodge. He stepped forward. The movement was so unexpected that Vorath could not adjust. Cole ducked under the blade and drove his shoulder into the alien's midsection. At the same time, he grabbed Vorath's sword arm and used the alien's own momentum to throw him off balance. Vorath stumbled past Cole, his blade cutting nothing but empty air. The crowd went silent. For the first time in his life, Commander Vorath had missed. A human had made him miss. Vorath spun around, his yellow eyes now filled with anger. He attacked again, this time with more caution. His blade cut downward in a powerful overhead strike. Cole sidestepped and delivered a crushing elbow to the base of Vorath's skull. The blow landed on the soft tissue between the armored scales. Vorath's head snapped forward and he staggered, stunned. The crowd began to murmur. Something was wrong. This was not how the fight was supposed to go. Vorath shook his head and attacked again, and again, and again. Each time, Cole was not where the blade landed. He moved like water, flowing around every attack. He was smaller. He was weaker. But he was also faster and smarter than the alien expected, and every time Vorath missed, Cole struck back. Elbow to the throat, knee to the liver, palm strike to the ear. Cole targeted every weak point that his research had revealed. He attacked the gaps between the scales. He attacked the joints where the armor was thinnest. He attacked with precision that came from centuries of human combat development. Vorath began to bleed. Green blood dripped from a dozen small wounds. None of them were fatal, but they were adding up. The Creathian was slowing down. His attacks were becoming desperate. "How is this possible?" Vorath growled. "You are just a human. You are weak. You are nothing." Cole did not answer. He was saving his breath. He knew the fight was not over yet. Vorath raised his blade for another attack. But this time, Cole did not wait. He moved first. He closed the distance in a single step and grabbed Vorath's weapon arm with both hands. Then he twisted. Hard. The sound of breaking bone echoed across the silent arena. Vorath screamed. It was a high, terrible sound that no one had ever heard from a Creathian warrior. His blade fell from his useless hand and clattered on the stone floor. Cole did not stop. He drove his knee into Vorath's wounded arm, forcing the alien to his knees. Then he wrapped his arm around the Creathian's thick neck in a chokehold that humans had used for thousands of years. He squeezed. Vorath struggled. He was still stronger than Cole, even with one arm broken. He thrashed and fought, and tried to break free. But Cole held on. He had been trained to hold on no matter what. Marines did not let go. The Creathian's movements became slower. His green blood was not getting to his brain. His two hearts were pumping harder and harder. But the pressure on his neck was too strong. His yellow eyes began to lose focus. After 30 seconds, Vorath stopped moving. Cole released the chokehold and stepped back. He was breathing hard. Sweat covered his face. His fatigues were stained with green alien blood. But he was still standing. Vorath collapsed face first onto the arena floor. He was not dead. His chest still moved with shallow breaths. But he was defeated. Completely and totally defeated. The arena of honor was absolutely silent. 1 million spectators stared at the impossible scene before them. A human had just beaten a Creathian warrior in single combat. It should not have happened. It could not have happened. But it had. Cole reached down and picked up his combat knife. He walked slowly toward the fallen alien. The blade was still clean. He had not even needed to use it. Now he needed to decide what to do next. Under the rules of the right of dominance, the victor could do anything to the loser. Kill them. Enslave them. Anything at all. Cole stood over Vorath and looked down at the alien who had started this whole thing. The alien who had slapped him in front of the galaxy. The alien who had called humanity weak and pathetic and prey. He raised his knife. The crowd held its breath. Cole stood over the fallen Crethean with his knife raised. 1 million spectators watched in complete silence. Trillions more watched through screens across the galaxy. Everyone was waiting for the same thing. They were waiting for the kill. Under the right of dominance, Cole had every right to end Voreth's life. More than that, it was expected. Every species in the galaxy would do the same. It was the law of the strong. It was the way things had always been done. Voreth slowly regained consciousness. He opened his yellow eyes and found himself staring at the arena floor. He tried to move, but his body would not respond. His broken arm hung useless at his side. His muscles burned from the chokehold. He was helpless. The Crethean commander had never felt helpless before. He had never been defeated. He had never known what it meant to be at another being's mercy. Now he knew. Voreth looked up at the human standing over him. He expected to see hatred in Cole's eyes. He expected to see the same bloodlust that he himself would have shown. He expected to see a killer. What he saw instead was something he did not understand. Cole lowered his knife. He slid the blade back into its sheath at his belt. Then he did something that shocked everyone in the arena. He reached down and offered Voreth his hand. The crowd began to whisper. Confused voices spread through the Colosseum. This was not how the right of dominance worked. This was not what was supposed to happen. Voreth stared at the extended hand. He did not know what to do. In his entire life, no one had ever offered him mercy. The Cretheans did not believe in mercy. They believed only in strength. Take my hand, Cole said. His voice was calm and clear. The fight is over. Kill me. Voreth growled. His voice was weak, but his pride remained. I will not live as a defeated warrior. Kill me, and claim your victory. Cole shook his head slowly. I am not going to kill you. That is not what this was about. Then what was this about? Voreth demanded. Why did you fight? Why did you risk everything? Cole pulled his hand back. He turned away from Voreth and faced the crowd. He looked at the million spectators watching him. He looked at the cameras that were broadcasting his image to every corner of the galaxy. When he spoke, his voice was carried by every speaker in the arena. I know what you expected today. You expected to see a human die. You expected to see my species become slaves. You expected to see weakness and devound. He paused and let the words sink in. Instead, you saw something else. You saw what humanity really is. You saw what we are capable of when we have something to fight for. He began to walk slowly around the arena, speaking to the cameras and the crowd at the same time. For 50 years, the galaxy has looked at humans and seen small, soft creatures from a tiny planet. You studied our history and saw endless war. You read about our violence and our conflicts and our suffering, and you decided that we were primitive, savage, uncivilized. Cole stopped walking. He turned to face the section where the Crethean delegation was seated. Their faces showed shock and confusion, and something else. Something that looked like fear. You were wrong, Cole continued. The wars we fought did not make us weak. They made us strong. Every battle taught us something. Every conflict pushed us to become better. While your species were evolving on gentle worlds, we were fighting for survival against everything the universe could throw at us. He pointed at Voreth, who was slowly climbing to his feet on the arena floor. Commander Voreth is one of the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy. His species has conquered 200 worlds. They have never lost a fight, and today, a single human marine defeated him in less than 5 minutes. The crowd was completely silent now. Every being was listening, but I did not kill him. And that is the most important lesson of all. Cole walked back toward Voreth. The Crethean was standing now, his broken arm hanging at his side. His yellow eyes watched Cole with a strange expression. It was not hatred anymore. It was respect. Humanity does not want to conquer. We do not want to enslave. We came to the stars looking for allies and friends. We joined the Confederacy because we believe that the galaxy is better when species work together instead of fighting each other. Cole stopped in front of Voreth and looked up at him. But understand this. We are not prey. We are not weak. We are not soft. We have spent 10,000 years learning how to fight. We have developed a million ways to kill, and if any species ever threatens us or our allies again, we will show them exactly what humanity is capable of. He turned back to the cameras for his final words. This is your only warning. Do not mistake our kindness for weakness. The next enemy who threatens humanity will not receive mercy. There will be no second chances. There will be no survivors. The broadcast ended there. But the effects of Cole's words spread across the galaxy like a shockwave. Within hours, military strategists from every major power began revising their assessments of humanity. The Crethean Empire officially withdrew its objection to human membership in the Confederacy. Within a month, humanity was offered a permanent seat on the Security Council. Vorath returned to his homeworld with his broken arm and his broken pride. He told his people what had happened. He told them about the human who had defeated him with bare hands. He told them about the mercy he had been shown. For the first time in Crethean history, a warrior who lost a right of dominance challenge was not executed. Vorath was allowed to live because of what he had learned. He spent the rest of his life teaching other Cretheans about humanity, about their strength, about their mercy, about why they should never be underestimated. Cole returned to Earth as a hero. He was awarded the highest honors the Marine Corps could give. Parades were held in his name. Politicians gave speeches about his courage. News networks played footage of the fight over and over again. When reporters asked him how it felt to stand against an alien twice his size, Cole just shrugged. I have been a Marine for 15 years, he said. That was not the scariest thing I have ever faced. Not even close. When they asked him why he showed mercy to Vorath, his answer was simple: because that is what makes us human. We have the power to destroy. We have the knowledge to kill. But we also have something else. We have the choice to show mercy, and that choice is the most important thing we have. The galaxy remembered that choice. They remembered the human who won a fight he should have lost. They remembered the warrior who showed mercy when he could have taken revenge. And they never underestimated humanity again. Some species looked at the stars and saw opportunities for conquest. Some looked and saw resources to take. Some looked and saw enemies to destroy. Humanity looked at the stars and saw something different. They saw a family waiting to be found, and they would protect that family with everything they had, no matter the cost, no matter the enemy, no matter the odds, because that was what humans did. That was who they were, and the galaxy would never forget it.